Welcome, everyone. We are going to officially get started at about 9:05, so in 3 minutes. In the meantime, please feel free to say good morning in the chat or good evening, just say hello in general, and let us know where you are joining us from today. I am joining everyone from a very humid Toronto. We had a bit of a thunderstorm come through, but it's looking to be another hot day. Welcome. Good afternoon from Malta. Hello. Welcome from Montreal. Welcome, Mary from Nigeria. Good evening from South Korea. Good morning from Jamaica. Hello from Vancouver. Amazing. Colombia. See, we have some folks who have just arrived in Toronto, so welcome. Just in time for one of our heat waves. A number of people from Toronto. Wonderful. Maybe those of you are kind of here early, settling in, taking your time. Hello from Calgary. Hello from Seattle. From Washington. A lot of folks joining us from the US today. Welcome from Turkey. Good morning. Hello from Indonesia. I always love seeing where everyone is joining us from. If you are just joining us, welcome. We're going to get started at 9:05. So we're just saying hello in the chat and just sharing where we're joining from. And if you haven't already, I am kindly asking everyone just to ensure that the name you are using in Zoom matches the name that you registered with on Folio. That's first and last name. This just ensures that we are able to follow up with any additional resources, answer any questions that maybe we didn't get to. But if I can't match your Zoom name to the name you registered with on Folio, I won't be able to contact you. So please feel free to take a moment and do that. Hello from Japan, welcome. Guatemala, Bangladesh, amazing. I see if I recognize maybe a few folks who perhaps have joined us at previous sessions. Just a moment and we'll get started shortly. All right. It is 9:05, so we are going to get started. Just give me a second. I've lost the chat. I want to make sure I can keep an eye on that. Perfect. Okay, let's go ahead and keep going. So you are all here for Toronto Tips. This is one of our pre-arrival sessions that we do here at the Center for International Experience. My name is Hannah Souza. I use she, her pronouns, and I am a program coordinator for orientation and community programs. And that is part of the larger International Student Experience team. And we hold a lot of events, we run a lot of programs that are usually open for all students, but really aimed at providing opportunities for international students to engage with others, to learn outside of the classroom, and to just kind of build a community and a support network. And I'm going to give my co-host an opportunity to introduce herself.
Hi everyone, my name is Mariela Olatunji. I'm sorry that my camera can't be on today, but I'm an orientation and community programs assistant and I'm working alongside Hannah. I'm currently in my third year undergrad at U of T, studying health studies and industrial relations, and I'm super excited to be here today.
And I'm always really excited to present, particularly this session alongside a student colleague, because I really find it helpful to have that student perspective in sharing kind of all things about Toronto. I just did want to preface that if you happen to join us for our first Toronto tip session back in July, this is basically the same content. You are more than welcome to stick around, but just in case you did join us earlier in the summer, this is the same content that we'll be sharing. So I'm going to begin with our land acknowledgements. I wish to acknowledge this land on which the University of Toronto operates. For thousands of years, it has been the traditional land of the Huron-Wendat, the Seneca, and the Mississaugas of the Credit. Today, this meeting place is still the home to many Indigenous peoples from across Turtle Island, and we are grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land. So I realized that the land acknowledgement may be new to some of you. It was definitely new to me when I first moved to Canada. So I always like to take a moment, particularly in these pre-arrival sessions, to share just a little bit about why we give the land acknowledgement, what the land acknowledgement is. And so the land acknowledgement is a formal statement recognizing the unique and enduring relationship that exists between Indigenous peoples and their traditional territories. We acknowledge the land to express gratitude and appreciation to those whose territory we reside on. It is also a way of honoring Indigenous peoples who have been living and working on this land since time immemorial. And so once you arrive in Canada and get yourself settled, I do encourage each of you to, do your self learning to learn more about the Indigenous peoples whose land that you will be living on and studying on for at least the next 7 years. So we'll just do a quick access check. We understand access to be a shared responsibility between everyone in this space. We will strive to create an accessible space that reduces the need for you to disclose a disability or impairment for the purposes of gaining an accommodation. And in doing this together, we strive to welcome disability and the changes it brings into our space. So I'm just going to take a moment here and pause. I'm going to put myself on mute, take a sip of water, and I'm just going to kind of keep an eye on the chat. If there's anything that you feel we could address about this space in Zoom, any way that we might be able to, support your participation, please feel free to send a direct message in the chat, and we'll do our best to make it happen. So again, I'll just take a moment and pause here and monitor the chat. Okay, I'm not seeing anything, but please feel free to send me a message along the way should something come up, and I will do my best to capture it in a moment. So just a little bit of housekeeping. Just to preface that this session will not be recorded. We have enabled closed captioning. We do kindly ask that everyone remain muted and to please use the chat function for questions. We will typically address questions during the Q&A portion. Sometimes when we're presenting, a question might pop up in the moment that we can actually address kind of right then and there. But typically, we'll come back to all the questions that are in the chat and get to them at the end of the session. And like I said, if there are any questions that we don't get to, we run out of time, we will follow up with some answers and resources by email. Tech issues can happen, so we appreciate your patience. If anything, goes funny with the slides, just give us a moment to fix it. We are not able, unfortunately, to answer any specific questions you may have about UHIP or immigration, but we can certainly share resources with you at the end to kind of help guide you to the right individual or team that can answer those questions. And finally, disrespectful and inappropriate behavior and comments will not be tolerated, and we will remove you from the session. And so with that, I just went to, oops, I went too far. There we go. Just kind of do a quick check-in with everyone. We're getting really close to the start of the fall term. Some of you are already arriving in Toronto. Others, are currently, in the midst of getting ready. So just a quick check-in and see how folks are feeling. Are you feeling, maybe like number one, a little bit nervous? Maybe like more two, you're excited. Maybe you're already packing. Perhaps three, a little bit overwhelmed with everything you have to do. Or maybe you're like number four, you're still not even kind of thinking about all those things and you're just enjoying the summer. So feel free to let us know in the chat what you're kind of experiencing right now. It could be a combination. Maybe you are excited, just a little nervous. Lots of excitement. That's good. A little bit of overwhelm. That's totally understandable, especially at this time of year. Get some nerves for sure. I see a lot of combination of two and three. Very three. I totally get that as well. It can be an overwhelming time just figuring out all the things you have to do, all the things you have to take care of. A few more ones and twos. Well, hopefully by the end of this session, we'll have given you a little bit to be more excited about, maybe ease your nerves about some things as it relates to kind of the city of Toronto, and provide you with maybe some resources that you can utilize to kind of help make things less overwhelming. So today, Moriel and I are going to cover a few topics. We're going to get started here shortly with about navigating the city. Those of you who are already in Toronto, you may have had some experience already with getting around. We'll talk about some important first steps to do upon arriving. We'll highlight, exploring the city, experiencing the seasons here in Toronto. We'll cover some useful things to know. And then, like I said, we will wrap up with our Q&A. And if we have time, promote some of our upcoming sessions that you might find beneficial. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Moriola here to talk a little bit about arriving at the airport and navigating the city.
Hi everyone. So I'm gonna talk about arriving. Usually, when you're coming to Canada, the airport that you will be arriving at is the Toronto Pearson International Airport. Now, U of T has something called the Airport Welcome Booths. So it is at the International Arrival Hall in Terminal 1 and Terminal 3. And usually it runs from August 18th to September 3rd from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. I think this is a very helpful resource because even maybe my first year coming to Canada for the first time, I saw these booths at the airport and I was able to get a map of U of T. So that was very helpful during my first year, and I encourage everyone to get that. And getting to campus in downtown, you can use something called the Up Express, which is like a train from the airport to Union Station. And it usually costs $12.35 for a one-way ticket. And then the taxis are usually an average of $50 to $60. And an Uber usually a $40 average. But I will say that since you might be coming in for the first time, I would definitely recommend an Uber or a taxi because the Up Express can be a bit confusing for someone who's coming to Canada or Toronto for the first time. But yeah, these are very helpful resources. Excited. And now I'm going to talk about the TTC. The TTC is something that is very important because it's going to be something that you're going to commonly use as a U of T student to navigate the city or just campus as a whole. So the TTC can be, sorry, we can navigate the city by the subway, the streetcar, or the bus. I think these are very helpful ways to go around Toronto because things might be far from one another and different things like that. And there are several ways to pay on the TTC. They have a single out of fare with which you can pay with a debit or credit card, which is $3.30. You can also buy a Presto card, which is like a pay as you go. So basically, you putting like money into your Presto card and paying as you go. And then they have the post secondary monthly pass, which I definitely do recommend because you might actually use the TTC more times than you can imagine, especially in your first year as you're trying to discover the city and navigate the city. This is something that I would recommend to everyone, and I feel like it's a very important resource. And then when we use a TTC, we usually have a 2 hour transfer, which we do pay with a Presto card or ticket or debit or credit card. So this means, like, for example, if I tap my card at 1 p.m., I can tap my card again for free until 3 p.m. and I can just navigate the city as I want. And we also have the One Fare program, which is a free 2 hour transfer between transit system with paying Presto, debit or credit card. So yeah.
So as Marla was mentioning about this Presto card, this Presto card can be a physical card or it can be digital. If you are looking to purchase a physical card, it's usually about $4 for an actual card. You can purchase these at various fare vending machines at TTC subway stations. You can also purchase these at a store called Shoppers Drug Mart. Um, some public libraries I've heard have physical Presto cards that they give out for free. Not all of them do. And so I would advise you to maybe call the branch or even just stop in to the branch to learn if a particular branch in your area is giving out um, Presto cards. I believe, and now I'm kind of questioning myself, but I believe using a Presto card gives you just a very small discount. A lot of people these days tend to just use their credit card or debit card at the machines, but I still see quite a number of Presto cards. And the one thing nice about a Presto card is that you can set up your account online or through the app. It gives you an opportunity to load funds. You can set up an auto load, so if you reach a certain amount on your Presto card, it will automatically add more money. You can easily check your balance. And if any of you are perhaps living further out of the city and are commuting in by GO train, which we'll talk about here in a few slides, you can set up a default trip. And so it kind of helps you to, not have to tap your Presto card as much. I mentioned, Moriel and I both are mentioning about, tapping your card. It's important if you are using your Presto card to kind of really learn how it works when you are stepping on to the subway, when you are stepping on to the bus or a streetcar. You are going to tap your card to get access. So either getting on to the bus or streetcar or entering the subway station. Same for the GO train. The only difference for the GO train is you tap off. I see just a quick question about, is the same Presto card for TTC and GO train? Yes. That's one really nice thing about the Presto card is that it can get you straight from TTC to GO train just with one simple card. And I know personally as a commuter, I get a little bit of a discount by transferring from TTC to the GO train on my Presto card. And you can add your Presto card to your Google or Apple wallet to pay. Now, one thing that Moriola was recommending, which I think is great, is there is a post secondary student monthly pass that you can put onto Presto. It costs just over $128 a month. You can just when you buy your Presto card, you can set it up. The only thing about having this monthly pass is that you do need to have a TTC post secondary photo ID, which can be obtained at the TTC photo ID office at Bathurst Station, or sometimes they do on campus school visits. Now, I haven't been able to find any information on these on campus school visits for this year. But what you'll need to bring is proof of full time enrollment, and then a piece of government issue ID or your school ID. It costs about $5.25 if you're getting it at the Bathurst station. And the key is that if you have this monthly pass on your Presto, you need this post-secondary TTC photo ID card to be able to show should you get stopped by a fare inspector. So oftentimes you'll see fare inspectors in the subways, on GO trains, even, who will check to make sure that everyone has paid, that they tapped their Presto card. And so if you are tapping your Presto card and they identify that you have this monthly pass, they may ask to see your ID to show that, yes, you are a qualified student to have this monthly pass. Now, navigating the city, a lot of students living kind of in the downtown area will stick mainly to the TTC. That includes our two subway lines, which are our line one, which is the Young University or the yellow line, and that's the one that kind of has the big U, or the green line, which goes more east west. That is line two, or Danforth. Some of the red lines you see, or the red lines you see, are our streetcar routes. It doesn't show all the stops, all the routes, but that just kind of gives you an idea. There's lots of different ways to kind of get around the city. Kind of in the middle of the map, you'll see a station labeled Queen's Park. This is where our line one stops, and it's a very popular subway stop for the University of Toronto St. George campus. Another one is just above it called Museum, as well as the one above that, which is St. George. And St. George has a stop on both of the lines, which is also very convenient depending on where you're living in the city. But you can see there's lots of options to navigate the city by public transit. One of the apps that I use that was actually recommended to me by a former student is City Mapper, and this includes, kind of the next time a streetcar is going to come, or let you know if there's subway delays, talks about bus times, and it also includes the GO train, ferry times, as well as bike share. Speaking of bike share, there are lots of ways to navigate the city if you aren't wanting to take necessarily a TTC, or perhaps you're going to a place that maybe a streetcar isn't as accessible or a bus isn't accessible. So as Moriola was mentioning, there's taxi or Uber. We do have something called the path system. So if you can kind of see the map in the bottom left, you'll see a bunch of these kind of blue lines. This is like a footpath system that kind of goes throughout certain parts of the city, and it's all these paths, mostly underground, that are connected. So you can kind of learn to navigate your way, let's say from Union City or Union Station, up to Eaton Center, or Young Dundas, kind of mostly underground, which a lot of people like, particularly in the winter, so you don't have to go out when it's snowing or raining. We do have a lot of folks who bike. So we have Bike Share Toronto, and this is located all around the city. There are bike stations where you can rent a bike for a short period of time. And there are a number that are actually located on a nearby campus. You can get a pay as you go pass, or you can get a day pass, or even sign up for an annual membership, depending on kind of what you think how often you'll be using a bike to get around campus or get around the city. We also have something called Bike Chain. This is located on campus at the Student Commons building. This offers do-it-yourself bike repair. So perhaps you have your own bike and you want to learn how to repair it yourself. They often have part sales where if you need a specific part, you can buy it for a relatively low cost. They also do free bike rentals for students. So if you don't want to kind of rent a bike through bike share, or you need a bike for perhaps a little bit longer than the bike share time limits, because I believe the bike share time limits are about either like 30 minutes or 90 minutes. There's a kind of a time frame for how long you can kind of rent a certain bike until you have to put it back at the station. The bike chain, you can rent out a bike for a little bit longer. They do ask for a cash deposit, but then upon returning the bike, you do get that deposit back. And then I mentioned briefly about Go Transit. And again, you can use your Presto card to be on the TTC, to be on Go Transit. And so if you are perhaps living, outside of the downtown core, or perhaps want to travel and, visit the other cities in the GTA, we have our rail system called Go. There are a number of lines that run, east west or even farther north that you can take. We do have even a line that certain trains that do go all the way to Niagara Falls. So if you're, looking to check that place out, we do have some Go buses. So sometimes the line will be shut down for various reasons, whether it's construction or whatnot. And oftentimes, if that's the case, they'll run Go buses directly from Union Station to various spots or stations along those particular lines. I see a lot of great questions coming in about transit and whatnot. We're going to kind of keep moving forward, and we'll try to do our best to address those at the end. Um, Keeping yourself safe. I find that Toronto is a fairly safe city. I find that St. George campus is a fairly safe city. A lot of the students I talk to feel the same. Um, but there are, things happen. And so there are ways you can keep yourself safe. So if you're on campus late at night, or, in the city, and you need to, get back home or get to a different location, just keep in mind, it might be helpful to plan your route in advance. You can always share your location with someone you trust. When you're out navigating the city, whether it's during the day or at night, it's important to be aware of your surroundings. I know a lot of us, have our headphones on, listening to music, or we're messaging on our phone or navigating a map on our phone. But it's really important to kind of, keep your head up, be aware of your surroundings, be aware of what's happening around you. I encourage you, take the main roads, walk where it is lit, especially as you're just starting to get used to the city. Try to avoid some of the alleyways that maybe you aren't familiar with quite yet. As you settle in, as you kind of learn your neighborhood, the area where you're living, you'll become more familiar with navigating the space. If you are get on campus late, uh, even if you're not on campus late, I do encourage everyone to download the U of T Safety app. This gives you access to something called Travel Safer. Again, if you're leaving, let's say, Robarts, the library, late at night, you can use the Travel Safer function on the U of T app. And it just allows campus safety to kind of monitor your routes. And there's other features that you can use again to kind of keep you safe. So now we're going to kind of move into some important first steps that international students should be thinking about once you arrive in Toronto. And one of those is opening your bank account. Now, we can't necessarily, recommend a certain bank to go with. We do encourage all students to, do your research, do your homework, discover which bank is going to fit the needs that you have. Be aware that especially around this time, most banks and credit unions have student accounts that perhaps have lower fees or are offering other incentives for you to sign up with them. We do have a video on our website that I'll try to pop into the chat in a little bit here that kind of walks you through some of the key things when it comes to finding and opening a bank account. So I encourage you to watch that. But some of the documents that you need to bring when you open a bank account, first of all, is your study permit and your passport. Sometimes banks also want to see your admission letter or proof of enrollment as well as your student ID card. Not all do, but if you have them, it might be a good thing just to kind of have all those documents together when you go to a bank to set up your account. Now, setting up your phone plan or getting a new SIM card is kind of the next thing you'll most likely want to take care of. You can choose to either unlock your phone or use your own unlocked phone. You could purchase a phone here with an annual contract. Again, it's really kind of up to you to do your research, figure out which of the mobile plans is going to fit with what you need. What's listed on the screen are just kind of some of the more well-known ones like Bell, Rogers, Telus, as well as some of the smaller ones, Fido, Krudo, Freedom Mobile, and just, again, like bank accounts. Do your homework, figure out which is going to be the best fit for what you need. Now, you're going to probably need some essentials. There are things you're going to need to buy, to purchase, whether you're living on campus or off campus. So if you need electronics, we have a store called Best Buy. If you're coming from the States, you're probably familiar with this store already. One of our stores is called Canadian Tire. And despite its name, it does have more than just automotive parts. There are smaller electronics. There are, kitchen stuff, things you might need for kind of setting up a new place of residence. We have stores called Shoppers Drug Mart or Rexall Pharmacy. These, again, are places where you can get prescriptions and medication, but they also offer kind of prepackaged food. They offer toiletry items, paper goods, things like that. And then T&T Supermarket. This is fairly close to campus on College Street. It's a great kind of place to buy food, fresh produce. And then if you are looking to, need furniture, maybe a table to sit at, or a desk, or a chair, or bedding, or whatnot, we do have a IKEA downtown, which is very easily accessible, even just by walking, or you can take public transit. That is a great place to shop for those things. And then if you are kind of wanting to explore some of the bigger malls, perhaps, go shopping for other things that you can't find at some of those stores. We do have a number of malls nearby. These are all accessible by public transit. And we have our Toronto Eaton Centre, kind of the most well-known within the city of Toronto. It's the one with the red Christmas tree in the photo. This is not too far from the IKEA that I just mentioned. So again, easily walkable from campus, but also easily accessible by TTC. We have our Yorkdale Shopping Mall and our Dufferin Mall, just more options to shop, and again, all accessible by public transit. And finally, I think my last slide, I may be wrong here before I turn it over to Moriola. Once you settle in, you kind of set up your place of residence, whether that's on campus or off. I really encourage you to kind of explore some of the neighborhoods. You may be living in one of them that's listed, but these are some of the neighborhoods that are, really close to campus. They have a lot to offer. So we have Kensington Market, which is kind of a well-known place within Toronto. Chinatown, Koreatown, Little Italy. They have a lot of character and charm and places to eat and stores to check out. So again, once you're kind of settled in and you want to do some exploring, these are some of the neighborhoods that are kind of closest to campus that I would recommend spending some time in. And with that, I'm going to take a little bit of a break and I'm going to turn it over to Moriola to talk a little bit more about exploring the city in terms of kind of her recommendations on where to eat, what to see, things to do. So over to you, Moriola.
Hey, hi everyone. I'm gonna touch on exploring the city, and my first thing to talk about will be on-campus eating. So U of T has residence halls such as New College, University College. There's also Chestnut Residence. Um, these places are helpful. They have a lot of variety of foods. I personally lived at New College in my first year, and the dining hall had so much food. It was a very nice place to eat, wind down, and have a little break during classes and all. Then U of T has food trucks along St. George campus. So these food trucks are close to Robards or your residence. Residence with I think the closest residence with the food trucks would be in his college. But outside of that, U of T has a lot to look out for. We also have something called Sid Smith. Sid Smith is like uh, cafeteria kind of. You can order food. There's also bubble tea and different things like that. And Robarts Library has different food options. I know there's a cafeteria. There's places like Starbucks and different places to eat. I know there's this one Mexican food place which is really nice. I really like their food. And then the MedSci building has so much food as well. There's this really nice cafe called 18 Feet. So if you do have the opportunity, I would encourage you to check that out. There's also the Arbor Room at Hard House. It is a very beautiful place to eat. Aside from eating, it's very pretty. It has a variety of options. I think they also have all day breakfast, if I'm not mistaken. And then there's a cafe Resonant, which is close to campus and a nice place to just wind down. There's also Second Cup, which is amazing. I go to Second Cup all the time, especially when I'm on campus. There's different Second Cups at like My Hall, Sydney Smith. I know these words might sound unfamiliar, but I promise in your first week you're going to figure out what I'm talking about. Um, you can also download the U of T mobile order app. So this basically will have your residence on the app, and you can choose your residence and see the food options available to you. I know they have options like burgers, fries, sandwiches. I personally use this a lot in my first year when I just wanted to quickly order and pick up. It's very, very helpful. You can also load your T card, which is your student identification card, with T-Bucks to buy like taxable prepackaged foods. So for example, like chips, candy bars, maybe even a muffin or a drink. Yeah. Next slide, please. Okay. Now my favorite topic, which is off-campus eating. So I will say that campus is a really wonderful location because we're so close to different options to try out different streets. I will say one major street that we're close to is College Street. So on College, we have things like Taco Bell, Tahini's, Popeyes, Bijito Sushi, Subway, Starbucks, Second Cup, Bloom, Tim Hortons. Me personally, I have been to Bloom Cafe, and I think that it's such a good place to eat. I don't know if any of you like matcha, but they have really, really good matcha. Popeyes is also a good place to eat. I really like their chicken or their combos, or whatever it is. They also recently opened up this place, this bread bakery. So if that's something that you're into, you can also check it out. We're also really close to Baldwin Street, which has things like Mother's Dumplings, Kinton Ramen, Kolipe, and Night Cafe. I would encourage you to check out Mother's Dumplings. Their dumplings are so good. I also really, really like Kolipe. It's like a Thai restaurant. It has really, really great food. And we're also close to things like Harbor Street, Bloor, Yorkville, Kensington Market, and St. Lawrence Market as well. I've been to basically all these places, but I will say that my favorite places to visit would be probably Yorkville, St. Lawrence, Kensington, and College Street. All these streets are like great nonetheless, but if you're looking for more options to explore or eat or anything like that to just like get a feel of Toronto as a whole, I would definitely recommend St. Lawrence Market and Kensington Market for sure. Next slide, please. Okay, and food delivery apps. So there's different food delivery apps. There's Uber Eats, there's DoorDash, there's Skip the Dishes, there's Grubhub, there's Ritual, there's Instacart, and there's Too Good to Go, which is like a place where you can kind of buy unsold food. So for me, in my first year, I really did use Uber Eats, DoorDash, and Skip the Dishes. Um, I think my favorite out of everything would be DoorDash. It does have like this little student pass or dash pass, student dash pass. So I will definitely encourage you to get it because as much as you have a meal plan, sometimes you might just feel like ordering out, and this is something that I did a lot in my first year. So I would definitely encourage you to get the dash pass or even the Uber One Pass from Uber Eats if you can. I also used Instacart, so if that was to order things like my toiletries, like snacks or different things that I needed that weren't really accessible to me at the time, I would just go on my phone and get an Instacart. So yeah, these are very great resources. Next slide. Hey, and places to see that are more well known. Toronto is big, and I don't doubt that you guys would have a wonderful time here. But just to give you some ideas of places you might want to see in your first week or first few months in Toronto, there's the Royal Ontario Museum, the ROM. There's the CN Tower. There's the Graffiti Alley. There's the Nathan Phillips Square and the City District. The CN Tower is really pretty to see at night. I'm not gonna lie. I also really like the Nathan Phillips Square, especially during winter, because you can skate and do different things there. There's also the distillery district, which is great, especially like during winter. There's a lot of things to see, a lot of places to eat. Even during the summer, you can always just go to the distillery district. I know they have like different stores, different churros, different things like that. It's a wonderful place to be, honestly. Next slide, please. Okay, now we're gonna talk about spending some time outdoors. I think this is very important because sometimes I know you might want to lock in, get good grades, which is very important as well. But also the amount of time that you spend outwards is extremely important too. So some places that are really great to visit would be Toronto Island, High Park, Evergreen, Brickwoods, Toronto Music Garden, and Island Garden. Me personally, I've been to the Evergreen Brickwoods, I've been to Toronto Island, and I've also been to High Park. I would 110% recommend Toronto Island for someone who has never gone before. It's really great. You get like a ferry, you get a good view of the water and just the Toronto skyline as a whole. It's wonderful. It's a great experience, honestly. There's also the Evergreen Brickwoods. If you like to hike and just like to explore new places, I will say that this is a wonderful way to go. They also have this little souvenir store, which is super cool. It has so many different things. And I know this is not included on this slide, but there's somewhere called Riverdale Park. It's really great. It has a wonderful view of the city. It's great for picnics, especially during the summer when it's like 30 degrees outside in Toronto, like it is right now. It's great to see. Next slide, please. Okay, now we're gonna focus on adventuring outside the city. Hmm. There's places like Canada's Wonderland, the Rouge National Urban Park, Niagara Falls, and Blue Mountain and Horseshoe Resort. I definitely think that Canada's Wonderland and Niagara Falls are places that someone who's new to Canada or just a first year might definitely want to explore. Canada's Wonderland is like an amusement park. It has so many different rides, so many different like food options to pick from. I really, really like their funnel cake. That is something that I really look forward to every time I go to the amusement park, if I'm being honest. And Niagara Falls is so beautiful, honestly. They have like this little ferry that you can use to go on the water. You also get, I think it's waterproof jacket, so don't stress about your hair getting wet too much. It's a wonderful experience. It's lovely to see. And yeah, I would definitely recommend all these places. Next slide, please. Okay, and now we're going to touch on the bigger events throughout the year, which include the CNE, the Canadian National Exhibition, the Toronto International Film Festival, also known as TIFF, the Distillery Winter Village, Winterlicious, the Pride Festival, the Toronto Jazz Festival, Taste of Toronto, and Summerlicious. I've personally been to the CNE, which is the Canadian National Exhibition. I think it's wonderful. It's just a place to relax, to wind down, to meet so many people, and just experience Toronto as a whole. It usually happens in August. I definitely think it starts this week or next. So if you're in Toronto, I will definitely encourage you to visit. I know right now they're having some discounts on the ticket. So this is a great chance to see and explore Toronto as you would. There's also TIFF. I've personally been to one TIFF event and it was wonderful. It was a great time to really get a feel of the Toronto film industry, and I really, really loved it. It was wonderful. Next slide, please.
Thank you for that, Oriola. I always so many places nearby that I haven't even eaten or tried yet. So when you and other students talk about it, and I always want to add something to my list. Um, I have been trying to answer just some of the questions in the chat, but if we didn't get to yours, we will definitely get come back to it during the Q&A. So in this next little set of slides, I kind of just want to talk about experiencing the seasons in Toronto. So there are, lots of different jokes about the seasons and the weather in Toronto. Jokes about, how most of our year is winter. We get a very, very small spring, slightly larger summer, fall. That some of our seasons are either almost winter, winter, still winter, and then construction, which usually takes place during the summer. There's jokes about how, in one day we can experience all the seasons. Jokes about how, there always comes a point in time during our winter where we think spring has arrived, but, jokes on us. It's actually winter comes back full force. But one thing I love about the city of Toronto is we do get to experience kind of all of the seasons. So when you are arriving, whether you arrived, just recently or closer to September, it will kind of be summer still. We're still going to have hot and humid weather, but as September kind of rolls in, that will typically start our fall. It's a beautiful time to be outside. All of the trees, not all of them, I shouldn't say that, but most of the trees, their leaves change colors. It's a great time if you have the ability to kind of get out of the city and explore some of those more kind of outdoor spaces. It's just a really pretty time to be out and about. It usually lasts until early November. Sometimes it can go, a little bit later, but typically winter arrives in November, December time. We can see snow as early as November, though I feel like the past few winters, our first snow has been a little bit later in December, and it really can last. Winter can last through March. We could have snowstorms hitting us through March. We even sometimes get snow into April. So that is kind of our winter period, and then spring is always seems very short. but it usually arrives in April, May. We do get rain in the spring, but when it's not raining, it is quite pretty. We have a lot of spaces with the cherry blossoms, which are quite popular during that period of time. And then summer usually starts in June and again lasts through August, early September. A lot of people refer to it as patio season. People have just survived a winter. They're ready to be outside enjoying the heat. So a lot of the restaurants that can, put tables outside, and so you often see, people eating on the patio for as long as they can to really soak up our summertime. And so, temperatures do range. We are not a climate that temperature just kind of stays fairly moderate all year round. So, like I said, when you are arriving, it will still most likely be very warm, very humid, potential for thunderstorms throughout the day. But as we kind of get into that fall, getting to the winter, our temperatures do drop. Like I said, we can sometimes get snow in November. Usually in the winter, our temps hover between 0 degrees Celsius and negative 10 degrees Celsius. We can get colder. We can get, negative 20. But we don't often get that much colder. So there are places in Canada that get a lot colder than we do here in Toronto. We usually get most of the snow again starting in December and January, but February you can also see a lot of snow. And like I said on the earlier slide, we can get snow into March and as late as April. Um, Last winter, I felt like we had a good number of snowstorms. So I'll be curious to kind of see what this winter brings. Typically in February, that's kind of when our first, as they call it, kind of false spring hits. There's usually a few days where the weather really warms up and it's just beautiful outside. And we all kind of think is winter almost over, but then the temperatures will quickly drop and remind us that winter is still sticking around for a little bit longer. Um, Now, some of you might be coming from countries, climates where snow is not new to you, ice is not new to you, the winter conditions are not new to you, but a lot of you may be. And so, usually in October, we hold a Toronto Tips Winter Edition where we talk a lot more in detail about kind of embracing the winter. We talk about how to dress for the cold. We talk about staying safe in the snow and the ice, and even kind of share about how you can really enjoy the winter. There's a lots to do in Toronto during the winter, and there are ways to enjoy it. I know we had a participant at our last Toronto tip session who put a comment into the chat about how there's no bad weather, there's just bad clothing or bad dressing. So it is important to really understand how to dress yourself properly for the winter, so that you can stay safe, keep yourself healthy, and then enjoy the city in the winter time. So if you're curious and want to learn more, that session will be on October 7th at 5 p.m. It is virtual, and you can register on Fully. So I'm going to turn it back to Moriola now to talk about just some useful things to know as an incoming student.
Hey, hi everyone. As an incoming student, I think it's very useful to know the amount of access you have to discounts and deals. So I'm going to touch on a few. First off, we have bulk barn. So bulk barn is basically a place where you can buy items in bulk. So you can buy things like spices, candy, or even like rice, pasta, different things like that. And they have 15% off on Wednesdays for students. There's also Metro, which is a supermarket. You can buy produce, toiletries, snacks, food, and more. They have 10% off at select stores every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. They also have a student discount, which goes every day, which is also 10% off. And then we have Rexall, which is a pharmacy and a supermarket as well, kind of. It's like Shoppers Drug Mart in a sense, but I will say they're more like pharmacy based, but it's a great place nonetheless. You can enjoy 20% off on Tuesday. There's one super close to school at Spadina and College. I went there all the time in my first year, every time I needed a snack or just something to use really quickly, be it toiletries or anything like that. There's also somewhere called the Independent Seating Market, which has 10% off for purchases over $50 on Tuesdays around Bay and Bloor. There's also a place called Choice Hotels, which you can get 10% off your stay using the student hotel discount ID, which is 003242220. And then we have DoorDash, the student Dash Pass that I spoke about earlier, for only $4.99 a month. And I really, really, really agree that it's a wallet friendly food delivery option from thousands of restaurants, stores, and retailers because I promise you will be ordering out in your first year. I did it. I thought I wasn't going to, but I really did. And then there's something called the SPC, which is a student price card. It's free to join. They have a variety of deals for students, including things like fashion, food, entertainment, and more. And it's available to download on your iOS, your Android. You can even use it on your web. I use the SBC a lot, especially when I'm shopping at the Toronto Eaton Center. For example, there's this particular store called Call Out Spring where it's for both men and women. You can buy shoes. They have like a student discount, so anytime I'm there to get a new pair of shoes, be it for winter, summer, whatever it is, I always make sure to use my SPC discount. So this is super, super helpful. And I encourage everyone to try and use these discounts and deals when they're in Toronto. Next slide, please. And okay, for an undergrad, you don't want to miss out on what the U of T Student Union has to offer. The student union has been so helpful to me. And honestly, I think sharing the resources they have for students is extremely important because they have a Canada's Wonderland good any day ticket for the 2024 season, which will now be the 2025 season, which is $47.99 plus tax. This is very important because I think Canada's Wonderland has this Halloween experience in November that I am definitely going to go for. And I urge you to go for it because I've heard that it's so much fun. So if you're able to get tickets from the UTSU, this would be a wonderful experience just to see how life in Toronto is, especially the fun side, and just to get a break away from the books. They also have the Cineplex movie passes, which is $14.50 every time you get a ticket, I think. Usually the tickets at Cineplex range from $17 upwards, so this is a wonderful advantage to take. And then there's a storage hotel student storage service, which is getting 2 months free by mentioning the UTSU, which is the University of Toronto Student Union. I think this is very helpful because in my first year, I definitely used a storage service because I had so much stuff from maybe back home or just my time in Toronto. So if you need a storage, this is a wonderful chance to take. There's also the Ripley's Aquarium Express Anytime voucher for $32. I definitely need to take advantage of this because I know the Ripley's Aquarium is such a great place to be. You can see different sea animals and just have a wonderful time with friends or even by yourself. But also, just something to note is that these things must be purchased at the community hub in the student commons, which is room 164 and 230 College Street, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And they only accept cash and debit only. Next slide, please. Okay, one of my favorite topics to talk about, which is the U of T meal plans and tips 101. I know a lot of you might be in residence. I'm not sure if you might be a new college just like I was, but if you are, it comes with a residence meal plan and it's useful for students living on residence. You can use it at different U of T residence dining halls. There are different places to eat, such as Oak House, Chestnut Dining Hall, New College. dining hall, and just a lot more. This is for the University of Toronto St. George campus. It is also it also might be mandatory, or residence meal plan might be mandatory for students living on campus. And just something to keep in mind when choosing your meal plan, if you haven't, is that some funds may not carry over. I know there's different tiers, so there might be meal plan, if I'm not mistaken, meal plan A, B, C, or more. So just something to know while choosing your meal plan. There's also another plan type called the T-Box, and this is useful for all students across the UTM campus, St. George, UTSC, whatever it might be. You can use it at U of T food courts, cafes, campus restaurants, and more. There are examples like Tim Hortons, Booster Juice, Robarts Food, Hall, and Second Cup. It's like a flexible pay as you go method. It works outside of the dining halls, and it works as a reloadable debit card. So, for example, I have my student identification card. I know I can go online and search up something like T card balance. And through this, I'm able to kind of put more money inside. I will attach the link once I'm done so you can understand how this works. And last but not least, there's also a commuter plan. This is for students living off campus and on campus without dining facilities or mandatory meal plan. It can be used at select U of T dining halls with discounted pricing. So, for example, you can use it at New College, Robarts Food Hall, Sydney Smith, MSP Food Hall. I would definitely say to check out New College because it does have a lot of food options, and there are two commuter meal plan options, which is a declining balance plan and an access plan. And to learn more, I think Hannah has attached a link in the chat. Thank you so much. So you can definitely check out more there. Next slide, please. And now we're going to talk about tax and tipping in Toronto. So there's a 13% harmonized sales tax, HST, on goods and services in Ontario, but there's no HST on basic groceries like milk, bread, vegetables, prescription drugs, or feminine hygiene products. At restaurant and bars, the tips usually range from 15 to 20% of a pre-tax bill, and hair salons and spas, the tips might also range the same 15 to 20%. Taxis and ride shares, the tips range from 10 to 15%. And then there's no tip required usually for fast food, coffee shops, and grocery stores. I think these are very great things to keep in mind when you go to visit these different places. Yeah, next slide, please. Okay, now for social etiquette in Canada, there are different things to keep in mind. You have to keep a distance when lining up, and you can hold the door for the person behind you within reason. This is something that I practice all the time, if not most. And you have to stand on the right of a moving escalator and you walk on the left. Before I knew this, I was always wondering why no one was standing on the left side. So this is something great to know because people might be on a rush and just walk. And if you're not too much in a rush, you can always just move to the right. And you should also always allow others to exit the subway, streetcar, or bus before stepping on. This is something that is widely practiced and something that I practice all the time because just so it doesn't create like confusion. I think it's very important let people step off before you step on. And last but not least, you should always remove your shoes when entering someone's residence. Very important. Yeah. Next slide, please.
Thank you for sharing all of that. Um, I realized that we gave you probably a lot of information. I was trying to keep an eye on the chats and answer some questions as we were going along. I did see a number of questions about when we get the slides after the session. And yes, I'm more than happy to share the majority of the slides. There are a few things that I will take out just because they don't need to be necessarily included, but we will share after the session. So again, please be sure that you are updating your name to make sure your name matches the name you used to register in Folio with. because if I can't match your name in Zoom to a name on Folio, I won't be able to send you those slides. So just kind of a quick check-in, seeing how you're doing about how you're feeling about moving or coming to Toronto here shortly if you haven't arrived already. Are you ready to get moving? Like number one, maybe number two, you're a little bit more curious now. Lots of questions still with number three, or still number four, you're gonna head back, to sleep and not really think about it for a few more days. Feel free to let us know in the chat how you're feeling. And then we are going to open it up to some questions. So I see a three, still have lots of questions. Two, a little bit more curious. One, let's go. I'm ready to immerse myself in Toronto life. I love the energy. I see some more twos, some more ones. Um, so I mean, and that's normal, right? I think there's a lot to be said for moving to a new place. You're not only are you starting this kind of exciting and um, challenging new chapter of your life in terms of coming to U of T, whether as an undergrad or a graduate student. But some of you, you may be leaving, home for the first time or coming to a new country that maybe you've never spent much time in before, or even visited the city of Toronto yet. So we can totally understand that there are a lot of feelings going on. So I'm just kind of going to go back up to the top of the chat. And as I scroll down, I'm going to make sure that we have either addressed your question in the presentation or redressed it in the chat. And if we haven't, we'll be sure to do that now. So let me just find where we are. We had a question in the chat about there are some perks and benefits to having a Presto card. And so I did put a link in the chat, replied to that about where you can kind of see what are some of the Presto perks. So if you have a Presto card, it might give you discounts to certain places. So definitely worth checking out. There's a question about kind of what does the monthly pass get you, and I apologize for that confusion. So if you do the post-secondary monthly pass for around 128 a month, that covers all your TTC rides within that month. There was a question about how soon upon arrival in Canada do you suggest opening a bank account. I personally would suggest getting it done sooner rather than later. You may need your bank account. Let's say you are living off campus and you're working out rent payments for your residence. You'll want to have probably a bank account set up. And you also don't want to, put it off until September when things start getting busy with courses and, orientation events and whatnot. So I would say, make it a priority within your first few days of arriving. Again, more questions. Yeah, you will definitely receive the slides as long as I can match your name. So be sure to do that. There was a great question about, do we have any information like this for the Scarborough campus? And I responded that most of what, Moriel and I were talking about is most kind of related to the St. George campus, particularly in terms of places to eat, kind of things to do, neighborhoods around the campus, places to shop. I will say that the U of T Safety Act, which we spoke about earlier, does cover all three campuses. So no matter what campus you are on, I do encourage you to download that. If you are a Scarborough campus student, you will still be using TTC. So the buses that run out there are still part of the TTC. So that shouldn't be an issue. If you are a UTM student, so you are on the campus out in Mississauga, they have a different transit system. It's called Leeway. But I do think you can still use a Presto Pass to what's my word I'm looking for, to transfer from Leeway to TTC. Let's see what are some others. There was a question about when Moriola, when you were talking about the student union benefits, about whether that was for undergrad only, and I just responded that what you were highlighting, Moriola, is for undergrad, but I did put a link into the chat for the graduate student union. I'm not as familiar with kind of what benefits they have to offer. I don't know if it's quite as extensive as undergrad, but definitely, check it out and see what they have to offer. Let's see. Can exchange students apply for Canadian phone number and bank account? That's a great question. I don't see why not, because you are a temporary resident here. Um, but I would definitely encourage you, if you are an inbound exchange student, so you're only here for maybe half a year or a full year, to connect with your inbound exchange office, and your advisor will be able to kind of guide you on what is typically how exchange students typically handle that. Can we get our Canadian phone number on campus? So I think Mary, I think you're referring to, setting up your cell phone to have a Canadian phone number. There might be some, so we have an event in early September called Clubs Fair. Sometimes there are outside vendors there. More likely, like banks might be there to kind of get you to sign up with them, give you freebies and whatnot. I don't know if cell phone providers will be there as well. Um, but I can't think of, actually, there might be. Let me just, if you give me a second, I'm going to look at. Um, Sometimes the bookstores. I feel like the bookstore might have something that they're connected with. Just trying to pull it up here for a second. I'm not seeing anything. I'm not seeing anything at the moment, Mary, about that. But what I'll do is I'm going to highlight your question, and I will do a little bit of research and see in my follow up email if I can give you a little bit information about that. There's a question about not being able to get study permit at the airport when arrived. Where else can I get this? Um, that has to do with immigration, and unfortunately, we cannot advise you on anything related to immigration matters. It's a great question. It's a question that other students have had. So what I can do, Stephen, is I'm going to give you the link to our immigration advising website. Let me make sure it got sent. I don't think it got sent. There we go. I would advise you to check out, what's available online, see if that answers your question. And if not, get in contact with an immigration advisor. Now, you can email them, but you can also book an appointment, whether that's virtual, by phone. You can drop into one of their weekly Q&A sessions. They I don't know, they might even have one coming up today or tomorrow, that you can quickly just kind of drop in and speak directly with an immigration advisor. But start at the website, see if you get your answer there, and then if not, get in contact with an advisor. So I see there's a question about. Oh, I'm so glad, Memorial, you answered this. I was actually going to call on you for this. So there was a question about, what's the benefit of using your T-Bucks, your T-card over just a standard bank debit card. And so thank you, Moriola, for, talking about how your T-card is the best and fastest way to pay around campus. You always have it with you because it's your U of T student ID, and it does make it easier to pay at a wide range of on-campus locations. So appreciate you answering that. See see a question about there's a U-Pass included in the fees. Is that another way from traveling from one place to another? Moriola, do you know anything about U-Pass? This is kind of something that's new to me. Have you heard about it?
This is something that's new to me too. Not
I I don't know, Maria, if perhaps you are a student at UTM. Because when I look up UPass UTM, I see that it is connected to the UTM campus.
it is.
So yes, okay. So we unfortunately I don't have information on the youth pass, as we're part of the Center for National Experience, which is on the St. George campus. Now, UTM has their own International Student Center, who might be a good resource for you to reach out to. I'm going to see if I can find that link for you real fast, because this is kind of this is something new to me. I have not heard about the UPass for UTM. It's great resources for you all students out there. Let me. It's not. Yeah. Here we go. Oh, the International Education Center. I apologize. It's not the International Student Center. So I'm going to put this in the chat. There we go. And so hopefully, Maria, you can find out more information through the International Education Center, or at least they'll be able to kind of guide you into to where to find more information about the UCAS. So apologies for that. Okay, so there's another question. Do we have any other ways than bank accounts to pay sellers who demand e-transfer via Interact? That is an interesting question. Have you, Muriel, had any experience with other ways of paying for something when they're asking for e-transfer?
It really depends on what you're buying and where you're buying it. Usually, if I'm buying something in person and maybe someone wants an Interact e-transfer, or maybe I'm buying something through, let's say, Facebook Marketplace, I would usually opt for cash if I don't have Interact. So I'm guessing that's kind of the only way. Yeah.
I think, I mean, that would probably be my instincts, is to inform them that you know aren't able or aren't comfortable with demanding e-transfer, and see if they'll accept cash. I can't think of any other ways. I There might be money orders or things like that that might be just more complicated than you're looking for. I'd also just maybe keep in mind, who is the sell, like what is the product they're selling, and just making sure that you're protecting yourself, that it is a viable product, whatever